Do you think it's done?
What does it say?
Ask again later.
Well, all right then.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
A famous gastronome once wrote, "We can learn to cook, but must be born to roast." Now, granted, at the time he wrote that, people were still roasting over open pits, but there's still plenty of confusion to go around today. Just ask the owners of this pallid poultry. Simple roast chicken doesn't always translate to easy roast chicken. Well, in the next half hour, we're going to explore this hallowed hollow we call the oven. We'll pick the right pan to put in it and the right chicken to put in the pan. And in the end, we will emerge with a beautiful, juicy, flavorful bird in less than half an hour. Now that's good eats. But then, so is this. Stick around.
A 2-ton knife shop with an attitude. Albertosaurus here was one large living theropod. Like many of his prehistoric pals, he did as he pleased. He hung out with friends, ate whatever he could get his jaws around, which was a lot, and made little dinosaurs. But now some new paleontological musings suggest that Big Al and his friends didn't really become extinct at all. They just underwent a long-term downsizing, the ultimate result of which may have been Gallus domesticus. A relative newcomer on the animal kingdom block. The chicken, as we know, it's only about 4,000 or 5,000 years old, and yet he shares many of Big Al's interests. Hanging out with friends, eating anything he can get his beak around, and making little chickens. Once upon a time, chickens strutted around family farms, a lot like this one. Just about everyone who didn't live in the city kept a chicken or two. And these were slow-growing but flavorful birds, valued more for their eggs, really, than for their meat. Of course, in the end, every chicken met his pot. After World War II, farms consolidated into vertically integrated conglomerates, and the fate of the chicken passed from folks in overalls to guys in lab coats. The result, as you can see from the cover of this fine scientific journal, today's corporate bird grows twice as big, twice as fast, and at about half the cost of the bird of yesteryear, making it from egg to plate in weeks rather than months. Of course, there are poultry purists who would argue that if today's Uber chicken really tasted like chicken, then the expression tastes like chicken wouldn't exist, because nothing would taste like chicken except, of course, chicken. And what we really need to sort this all out is a poultry scientist. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Alton.
So, does today's chicken taste different from, say, a chicken 50 years ago?
Well, my grandmother tells me that it does, so I certainly wouldn't argue with her. Today's chicken is obviously meatier, juicier, more tender, more consistent than in the past.
So some of the words we hear a lot, in chicken talk these days, steroids, growth hormones, antibiotics.
There are no steroids or hormones given to chickens in the United States. That's against the law. And besides that, the chickens are pretty much growing as fast as they can, and hormones really aren't effective.
Organic and free range. Do they really make a difference?
Free range birds do tend to be a little bit older, so the meat may have a little bit different texture, maybe a little bit different flavor. Birds that are grown on commercial farms have room to walk around. They're essentially free ranging, except that they're grown inside of buildings instead of out in pastures.
Mike, thanks for your time. I know you got to get back to the farm. You guys wouldn't happen to raise any... No. At most modern markets these days, besides the national brands, you'll also probably see a free-range bird or two, as well as maybe a kosher bird that's been soaked in a salt brine. Now, most organic and kosher birds are going to look a little pale compared to, say, the national brands. See, skin color is determined by diet. Now, some marketing research gurus someplace decided that us consumers like our chickens yellow. So a lot of growers add things like marigold petals right to the feed, hence yellow skin. It doesn't hurt anything, but it doesn't exactly add any flavor either. Now, when it comes to size, I really like broiler fryers. That's a bird in the 3.5 to 4 pound range. Now, most free-range birds hit that mark, and they yield just enough for 4 adults to have dinner. If you have more guests, look for a roaster, which is in the 4 to 5 pound range. And for now, steer clear of stewing hens. They're tasty, but they require moist, not dry cooking. So roasting is out. As you can see, I've made some, well, modifications to my refrigerator. Say hello to Dr. Penny Adcock of the Center for Disease Control. What's up, Doc?
It's about 34 degrees, humidity 75% and holding. Perfect temperature for a home refrigerator.
Got some raw chicken for you.
Well, you can start by putting it in a bowl or a tray and putting it on the bottom shelf.
Anything else?
Well, you always want to cook or freeze raw poultry no later than the use-by date on the package. And you should never refreeze raw poultry after you've already thawed it. Always cook to an internal temperature of at least 170 degrees Fahrenheit to kill the bacteria.
Won't 7 minutes at 140 do the same thing?
Sure, that'll do the same thing, but chicken cooked to 140 degrees just tastes nasty.
Well put. So, why is poultry so susceptible to bacteria?
Well, chicken is less acidic than red meat, and that high pH provides the perfect environment for microbes to grow.
Is undercooking the biggest culprit, or is it...
Cross-contamination, you betcha. By the way, you're letting all the cold air out of here.
Sorry. Hear now the truth. If you cut raw chicken on this cutting board with this knife and these hands on this counter, well, guess what? It won't matter if you cook that chicken in there to an internal temperature to make Pompeii blush. It's your responsibility to wash everything, the board, your hands, the knife, everything, with hot soapy water before you touch, well, any other foodstuffs in this kitchen. And if you don't, you could be cruising for a 6-day, 7-night, all expenses paid trip to your bathroom. I'm not kidding. Now, around here, we even keep a cutting board specially for raw poultry. No confusion, no accidents. From time to time, I even like to wipe down the counters with water that's laced with just a little bit of bleach. Commercial disinfectants do the same too, and, you know, they're a lot cheaper than a house call. It would be easy to dismiss the roasting pan as mere oven bucket, but your chicken, as well as future lasagnas, enchiladas, soups, stews, cobblers, and roasts, would thank you to think again. Hello, W. How's this?
That is a baking pan.
A baking pan.
Your chicken would be better off roasting in a hubcap off your father's Oldsmobile.
Dad drives a Cadillac, actually.
Right. The right roasting pan evenly distributes, absorbs, and reflects heat, and can even straddle 2 burners for quick browning and sauce reduction.
Sauce reduction.
The specifications are simple, even for you, AB. First, heavy is good.
Heavy.
Second, upright, sturdy handles are good.
Upright.
You can hold on to these with mitts. Third, polished surface is good.
Polished.
It reflects heat and holds on to pan dripping, something nonstick surfaces cannot do.
I see.
I doubt that. This pan is large enough for a rib roast, but not too big for lasagna. Has flared edges for easy foil crimping. In short, everything you could want in a roasting pan.
Not exactly cheap.
This is one device that I do not advise you skimping on.
Very well.
AB, do not run away with my mitts.
Oh, have your old mitts. I don't want them anyway. Okay, everybody, repeat after me. Organization will set me free. I don't mean to sound like a motivational speaker, but it's true, especially if you're planning to be in close contact with raw chicken or meat or other possible sources of cross-contamination. Get in the habit of prepping and gathering everything you need before you get your hands in the food. Now, around here, we like to measure our ingredients into custard cups, set them on a tray or sheet pan, along with any tools you might need. Now, the French call this concept mise en place, put in its place. And next to a sharp 8-inch chef's knife, it is your best friend. Now, the way we see it, roast chicken should taste like, well, chicken. So we keep the seasoning simple. Some lemon zest, some garlic, olive oil, parsley, little salt and pepper, salt and pepper. I hate that. I mean, there's more to pepper than playing yin to salt's yang, or is it yang to salt's, well, you know. I am am the first to admit, I'll reach for an electric coffee grinder in a flash when it comes to milling most spices. But when it comes to peppercorns or pastes like tapenade or pesto or our stuffing today, which is technically a cremolata, well, it's just not right to use anything but a mortar and pestle. I mean, for one thing, you're not going to end up with big old hunkin' chunks of peppercorn floating around in dust. And also, with the mill, you usually leave the flavorful oils, well, inside the work bowl. So I started with about 1.5 teaspoons of peppercorns. And once you get it down to just a medium grind, go ahead and add about 3 garlic cloves worth of garlic with a little bit of kosher salt. And work that just for a few seconds. You don't want to beat the moisture all the way out of the garlic. You just want to loosen it up a little bit. As soon as you see the water kind of rise out of it, go ahead and add about a lemon's worth of zest. Now, same thing here. You don't want to beat it to death. Just work it until you start to smell lemons. And when you do, hit it with a little bit of parsley. Just a pinch. Work for another couple of seconds. And then we're going to bring it to a paste consistency with just, 2, maybe 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Again, we're not trying to make soup, but make a paste that we can work with under the chicken skin. Now, we may have found the perfect pan, but a roast needs to sit up out of the pan or else it'll just lay there in its juices and boil. Now, for that, we could use a rack, but racks are, well, besides being clumsy, food sticks to them, and trust me, these things are hard to clean. But above all, they bring no flavor whatsoever to the pan drippings. But aromatic vegetables do, which is why I float all my chickens on only the finest, or maybe a little past their prime, carrots, celery, and onions. Time to face the bird. The secret to roast chicken is sunbathing. Sunbathing. Now, when you go to the beach, you don't curl up into a little ball. You stretch out so the sun's radiation can broil you. That is what it is, you know, broiling. Well, the same holds true for a chicken. The flatter and more uniform you can get it, the faster and hotter you can cook it. And that is what produces juicy meat and crisp brown skin. So, instead of trussing the bird, we butterfly. Flip your bird, backside up, and with a pair of kitchen shears, no, not regular scissors, cut the ribs down one side of the backbone and then on the other. Save the backbone, it'll be great for the jus. Now, open the chicken up like a book and take out the keel bone that separates the 2 sides of the breast. Just slice through that thin membrane with the tip of a paring knife and then crack them open. Reach in with a finger on either side of the bone and just lever it out. Now the breast will lay flat. Turning bird back over and spread him out like a butterfly. Now, just loosen the skin, starting in from the neck. Just wiggle your fingers in. It'll lift right off. Just try not to tear it. There. Now to get to the dark meat, just lift the skin at the edge. Don't worry too much about getting all the way down into the leg. It's not a lot to season there anyway. Now, use a teaspoon and deliver the stuffing to each of the quarters. Try to spread it out a little bit as you go. Perfect. So why season under the skin? Well, 2 reasons. 1, skin is designed to keep what's out, and what's in. So it stands to reason, if you want to flavor the meat, you got to get under the skin. 2, things like lemon zest, garlic, pepper, all taste really bad when they burn. And burn they will when exposed to all this direct heat. And they get in the way of the skin browning. Now take a moment for a quick pre-oven rub down. A little olive oil. The massage will be relaxing for both bird and cook alike. And besides, getting the oil down into all these nooks and crannies will make sure that this bird browns up nice. Brown means crisp, and crisp means good. So, before we go into the pan, we're going to put just a little bit of salt on the flesh side, maybe half a teaspoon or so. And then, in the pan, breast side up. Now, before you do anything, before you touch the oven door, the timer, your coffee mug, your dog, wash these nasty chicken hands. Lots of hot water, lots of soap. Believe it or not, next to cut and paste, this may be the most valuable thing they taught you in nursery school. Now, about 8 inches from heat to food is a good distance for a chicken this size. Any closer than that, and our bird will end up looking like one of those pictures the state troopers made you look at in driver's ed class. Now, I'd love to tell you to turn the bird in 10 minutes, in 15 minutes, but the truth is every broiler is different. Every chicken is different. So give it about 10 minutes and then take a look. Oh, and since most broilers turn off when the oven gets to a certain temperature, leave the door in the first open position. So 18 minutes has gone by, well, in our world at least, and it is time to check the bird. Now we've got some really nice color there. This looks great, but I'm happy with this, so I'm going to go ahead and give it the turn. Paper towels, just grab the ends of the legs, flip them over. That's it. Back under the broiler for about another 10 to 12 minutes. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's a good... Oh, has 10 minutes gone by already? Whew, and I just had time to get this crudité platter together. Right. Time to tempt fate. Now, do this a few times and you'll learn exactly what done looks and feels like. Now, since light and dark meat cook a little differently, I check both. So, shoot for the thickest part of the breast, about an inch from the wing. Not quite 165, but the meat feels good and the juices run clear. I think it's a go. Now, check the middle of the thigh on the opposite side. 167. Juice is clear. This bird is cooked. Now, like any roast, this bird needs to rest a few minutes so the juices have time to redistribute through the meat. It's going to lose a little juice, so put it in a deep bowl and cover loosely with foil. Now, we've just got time for the jus. Now, these vegetables have served us well, but they're not done yet. Before we make our jus, though, we want to get some of the extra fat off of the pan. Just tilt it up and let everything kind of pool in the bottom, and then use either a wide spoon or a bowl baster, which is my favorite, and just kind of suck it right up off of there. But whatever you do, do not throw this away. Mixed with a little red vinegar and mustard, it'll make a terrific vinaigrette for a side salad. Now, the pan's still really rocket hot, so let's give it a boost and go ahead and crank this up over 2 burners. And get it as hot as we can, as fast as we can. Now, one of the first things we're going to do is deglaze the pan, which is going to loosen up all this really great stuck-on stuff at the bottom of the pan. It's where the real flavor is. We're going to let the pan just get a little bit hotter. And we're going to hit it with some wine. I like to use red wine for chicken. It's not very traditional, but I like it. We're just going to add enough wine to just cover the bottom of the pan. Now that's going to come to a boil really quickly. So we're just going to kind of scrape around. I kind of use one of the pieces of carrot or celery to rub with. Now wine is going to add a brightness to the sauce, a kind of, I don't know, front seat flavor. But we also need something in the background, some body. We can't get that from wine. Where we get that is from stock or broth, something that's got some meatiness to it or even some gelatin, which would thicken the sauce and give it body. So I'm going to use sodium-free chicken broth. Now, you could use regular chicken broth, but by the time this reduced, it would, I don't know, taste like the Dead Sea, a little too salty. So I'm just going to add maybe a cup of broth. Give this a good stir and let it reduce. But now is also a really good time to add any aromatics we've got around, like herbs or something to give kind of a final punch of flavor. And it just so happens that we've got some of the stuffing left over. Since it's all aromatic, lemon, parsley, garlic, it's a perfect add-on. It'll echo the flavor that we've already got in the chicken, which is exactly what we want you to do. Now I'm going to leave this alone for 2 minutes or till it's reduced by half. All you have to do is strain out the vegetables and you've got a good cup of intensely flavored jus. It's more than enough for this chicken, enough for 3 chickens, really. Now, carving time is when butterfly bird really shines. Watch this. Leg quarter, nothing but skin. Now, since we've taken out the keel bone that goes between the 2 breasts, they're going to separate like a breeze. Now, if you want to serve quarters, and I often do because it's pretty on a plate, you might want to make some thin incisions right through the breast. That's going to give the jus someplace to go besides just running in the plate. About 3 or 4 cuts will do nicely. Then just right onto the plate. And you don't need more than 1 spoonful of the jus. It really is strong. Just right across the bird like that. Now I gotta tell you, I am not Mr. Garnish. If it doesn't bring flavor to the meal, I don't think it belongs on the plate. But since we've already got kind of a lemon motif going with the zest, I'll break down and go 1 single lemon wheel. There, dinner time. Now this whole butterflying business works great on the grill too. The paste that we rubbed under the skin could have been cumin, rosemary, and crushed olives, or curry paste, or even homemade mayonnaise. It's an extremely versatile method, especially for those of us who sometimes take the extra skin off to avoid the fat. We hope you've learned a thing or two about the culinary chameleon we call chicken. Join us next time on Good Eats, and in the meantime, don't cry foul.
Visit us on the web at www.foodtv.com.